Easy now, fellow Gooners. It's your boy Si, aka the Mancunian. Welcome to a Gunner Talk. Let's start with just a general sense of relief. Obviously after the final Europa final, it could have become probably one of the worst weeks in the club's history. If Spurs had done the unthinkable in the Champions League final. Thankfully they didn't. And we can laugh about that. And parity's restored, isn't it? And we can now start to look forward without a huge shadow cast over us. Looking forward to next year. As you guys know, I've been pumping around some ideas about changing the setup of this. Getting a bit lonely just doing it on my own all the time, to be honest. And I'd love to integrate some other people in it. Push around some ideas with some of you guys. First and foremost, what I need is just some support from you guys. I need some subs, ideas, more interaction, likes, retweets, anything to help me. If you enjoy this sort of platform and listening to fellow Gooners talk Arsenal, generally all things football, I need as much help from you guys as possible. A lot of you that know me know I'm not someone who likes to constantly pump stuff around the internet and mither. But it is at a point where I need some help, guys. If you enjoy this and you'd like you guys to, yourselves to take part, or you've got any big Gooner accounts that you'd like for me to, have a chat with and move things forward, please let me know. And please give me your support. And if you don't, just let me know that it's shit and I'm wasting my time, and I should do something better with my bit of spare time I get. Feel free to do that. Always open to criticism as well as praise, as long as it's fairly constructive and not just get fuck you useless mank wanker. Not that I've not heard that a few times, but going to be a bit different, obviously because of the time of year we're at the minute. I've opened it up just to you guys, and rather than just talk about things I want to talk about, I've asked you guys to ask me some questions and subjects you'd like me to chat about, so that's what I'm going to do. Just on a first note, I'm going to start a little bit differently. Not with a question. I'm just going to start with talking about Jose Reyes. Absolutely awful news. It brought a tear to my eye, I'm not going to lie. Not the biggest name that's ever been through the door. He was a very influential Invincible, in my opinion. And a bit of a sign of things were changing at the time. We were under Wenger, we were known for sort of unearthing gems, and we paid a lot of money for Reyes, and it was a bit like, well, he's getting these guys for £500,000 and they're turning out to be world beaters. So if we're paying world beater money, how good is this guy going to be? And although maybe never quite lived up to that, I thought he was great. Although not with us for a very long time, I think while he was there, he did his bit. And it's just absolutely devastating. I mean, this is a guy who's around a similar age to me, and he's leaving behind a wife, children. It's just upsetting. I saw a Spurs fan taking the piss, and it's just like, sort your life out. What an awful thing to find amusing. It's just disgusting. I don't care who he played for. It's heartbreaking. I just wanted to look happily at what he did give us. That Chelsea goal. That was like, whoo, when he just hit it, and it just, it was rising and it was just going in, and you were like, oh my boy, that is a finish. And especially when Chelsea were starting to become a bit of a force, it was a real, punch in the bollocks for them sort of thing. It was great. The goal in the Middlesbrough 5-3, 3-1 down, and that's, I look at those times with happiness as well as sadness, because that was the last real time, we were 3-1 down to Middlesbrough, and you just felt like, Middlesbrough, this isn't, look at what we've got, this just isn't going to be enough. And it wasn't. We came back 5-3. When have you last felt that about this team? When have you ever seen us sort of 2 or 3-0 down and gone, don't worry, we've got the personnel to swing this, we'll come back, we'll win this game? You do see people saying it regularly these days, but out of just pure blind hope and love for the club, rather than realistic belief that this team will, this squad and the personnel will do it. I feel like his career had a bit of a sad end with us, and it was the 49 not out in the United game, and the Neville's doing a number on him and just kicking fucking lumps out of him, and for me that was the sort of the end for him. I think it just signalled he wasn't very happy in this country for me, and you know the way we went about things at the time, where that was acceptable, that you know you could just kick someone off the park and get away with it. You know, and it was a sad way for his time, you know, his brief period of time at us to end. But what a career he had, you know, goal, you know, match-winning goal and title-winning goal in La Liga, you know, Premier League, FA Cup, you know, 5 Europa Leagues. I'm sure that must be a record. I'm not sure who's got more than that, but just thank you, Jose, and just send my love and his thoughts to, you know, his family, friends, and just anybody connected to him. It's just a really you know, last week, put the football aside, this was by far the worst thing that could have happened, and just absolutely heartbreaking. Like I say, brought tears to my eyes, absolutely devastated by it. But let's move on from that. So let's get into the first question sent in about the Champions League final. Is it okay to laugh at Spurs? Of course it is, guys. Of course it is. You know, we've had a pretty turbulent season. You know, there's not been many high points. You know, and the old adage of, you know, misery loves company. Well, what have we got if you can't take the piss out of your next nearest rivals, losing, you know, what you could probably say is one of the two biggest achievements in club football, which is winning the Champions League and winning your own league. Of course you've got to laugh at them. I laughed so hard, you know, and I thought it was absolutely poetic beauty that, you know, that penalty got given against them, the amount of shit penalties they've got this year, diving, you know, Kane was at it again, throwing himself on the floor, I just found it wonderful that's, you know, it sort of killed the game before it even got going. And I would say Spurs were probably the better side throughout, but that just sucked the life out of them. You know, it knocked all the hope and belief out of them really early, and made the game a pretty dull watch. But, you know, it's seeing Poch crying, Lucas Moura but you know, that gave me a sticky tip. You know, I fucking loved that. You know, and you've got to look at, would these guys be doing anything different if it was the other way round? Go and have a look at their feeds, Spurs fan feeds, when we got bummed in the Europa League final, and were they looking and going, oh, come on lads, they're having a rough time at the minute, let's not kick a man while he's down. Come on guys, fuck me. Yeah, so yes, we should laugh hard at Spurs. And I love that seeing Poch cry, because I think he actually knew that was their chance, that was their only realistic chance, I feel. You know, they've not fluked their way to the Champions League final, but it's more through other teams lacking than them being brilliant. You know, and yeah, the fact that he decided to throw Kane straight in there completely backfired, you know, turfing out a guy that scored a hat-trick, you know, in the last game to get him there for, you know, an unfit Harry Kane. I just thought, oh, God, just inject that straight in, absolutely fabulous. So yes, guys, yes, we should laugh very hard at Spurs, because hey, what else have we got to laugh about? So yeah, I love that. Another little thing that made me think about was this whole, you know, Giroud with the trophy on the Chelsea coach, and thank you Arsenal, and people losing the plot. And guys, what do you want him to do? What do you want him to do? You know, go up and collect his winners medal and then go ha ha, and he's got an Arsenal shirt underneath. Oh, come on, guys. You know, yeah, he could act with a bit more dignity and class, but do we really care? Should this be something that is keeping you up at night? No. And then it made me laugh at sort of then Ox doing something completely the opposite, you know, and going on about, oh, I know how this went to Arsenal fans and all the rest of it after the game. And I couldn't give a shit about that either, you know, people going, oh yeah, once a gooner, always a gooner. Are the same people that were saying that about Giroud till he does something else. You just shouldn't care anymore, guys. Get over it. Stop looking to the past all the time. Ox was decent, not great. You know, he's not had a chance to really do anything at Liverpool yet. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if he comes out and says something. You know, his comments about us towards the end of his time at our place weren't great. Some of you are so bipolar in the way that you flip-flop on your opinions of people, and then you lose your shit or you're delighted with things. Just mind-blowing for me, guys. You just got to move on. Next question. Mesut, you know, his behaviour. Is it the end for him? I think it's got to be, personally. I just don't see how this situation carries on anymore. You know, and this brilliant lip reading in Turkish about what he said, and you're not a coach, you know, you're a pussy and all that. You know, who doesn't love a rumour based around lip reading? I mean, come on, it's great, isn't it? But it doesn't shock me that he said derogatory words towards Emery at all. It's just his attitude stinks. I was just pissed off at the way he walked off, you know, just that I don't give a shit attitude. And for me now, the problem is, I think obviously looking at the way things went throughout the season, it was obvious we were trying to make a point of, you're not part of the first team, you're not part of our first team plans, you're not part of the future. And we benched him, you know, and either give more or get lost. And then I think obviously things that happened regarding the squad made it impossible for Emery to sort of justify keep benching him. When what you're looking at in his place is sort of a Willock, Guendouzi, El Neni, you know, you're then going to have to pick Mesut over them just based on quality. But, you know, did he do enough to justify it? Well, you know, like we've all been laughing at his wages, put them to one side. The fact that the guy is playing one game a month and then not really turning up and only puts on a show if it's against a real low-level side. You know, the fact that he's not playing games north of Watford, you know, if it's an away game, it's not good enough, guys. It's really not. And I'm just sick of the circus. I think that's took away a lot this year from anything that's been going on, is this whole Mesut versus Emery situation, and you're either pro-Mesut or pro-Emery, and you can't really find, you know, you can't be a fence sitter with it. This circus has just got to end for me. Whatever my past feelings about Mesut are, which is, you know, I've loved him and adored him, you know, these are going back years, and as I keep banging on about, it's not Sentiment FC. I'm judging Mesut Ozil on his last couple of seasons, and, you know, 4 assists or whatever he's got, you know, it's just not good enough, guys, and he's got to go for me. It's just, how do we get rid of him? You know, well, we're not going to get a fee for him unless it's China, and I can't see him going there. So it's going to be a case of just getting him out, you know, and subsidising his wages a little bit to get somebody to take him on. And that's a problem, you know. It's all good and well when players aren't doing well and they're underperforming all the time to want rid of them, but then the consequence of them underperforming and letting you down all the time is they're not a particularly attractive purchase for somebody else. So it leaves us in a real quandary and an awkward situation for me. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's still here come next season, because I'm just not sure how we get rid of him, apart from just pay off his wages and just release him. But I just don't see the club doing that. I really don't. And he's very much in the same situation as Mustafi for me now, where the love-hate relationship, or just the relationship with the fans and where it's mainly hate, isn't good. You know, whether you can justify his performances sometimes, say, well, you know, a lot of the time he can do a 7 or 8 out of 10, but it's just that odd fuck-up. It's the animosity it causes amongst the fan base, and the bickering and the arguing and the infighting, which is very much the same as Mesut for me. So that's why the two players that have to go. Just for the overall morale of the squad and the fan base, you know, let's start again. So that's a real tricky one for me. You know, and it's going to be a long, drawn-out saga of the summer for me, I think. It's not going to be an easy one to sort. Next interesting question, Emery. Thoughts on Emery? Has he done enough? I'm so undecided on him. I want to back him blindly and keep saying, yeah, just give him time, give him a chance. I've been underwhelmed by him. I think he's done really brilliantly in certain situations, and it's been a nice change. You know, he talks about this chameleon football, you know, and adapting. You know, and that was my main criticism of Arsene, as much as I loved him, was just this reticence, you know, towards, it's just my way or the highway. It's plan A, plan A, plan A, and if plan A doesn't work, we just keep blasting away with plan A. There was never a plan B. You know, apart from making subs on 65, 70 minutes. That was the only facets to his tactics he really had, and that was it. It was just keep plugging away, and, you know, my way will come good at some point, which was no good for most of us, and, you know, why it got very, very sour, you know, last season. And then Emery, you look and, you know, people saying, well, his tactic, you know, he's a bit of a Ranieri and a bit of a Tinkerman. And I think he is, but I think you've got to look at the early part of the season where he was tinkering well. And I think when you look at the later part of the season where he's been tinkering, I don't think it's been through his own choice. I think it's been through necessity. You know, losing Holding, losing Bellerin. That's the best 2 players in our back 4, guys. That's got to sting. You've got to give him some leeway for that. You know, name me a manager that would have, you know, given what we've got in our squad, who'd have dealt with that well. that's a real kick in the teeth. Then Ramsey getting injured, which I think made a mess of the whole taking a stance on Ozil position. I think his hand's been forced, and then I think he's tactically had to keep changing things based on the fact that senior pros let him down regularly. And I just hope he doesn't go down the Wenger route of backing them blindly and, oh, it'll come good, it'll come good. They're letting you down, mate. They're letting you down regularly, so get rid of them, because it's like I feel the same way towards a lot of fans. Your blind support of some people doesn't get repaid very often, so why would you keep doing it? I'm not on this, well, I support Arsenal, so I'll blindly support anyone who ever puts the shirt on. Nonsense. That makes no sense, and for me, it's just as detrimental to our progress as constantly calling them out. Now, you guys know I'm not a fan of this atting players, atting Unai, atting the club, and handing out your grievances. I think, if it's positive, at these guys, but to air your dirty laundry directly to them, it isn't helpful, guys. That is kicking a man while he's down, and that's not going to help at all. If you've got something bad to say, just air it on Twitter. Why feel the need to at these guys, innit? And like I say, I'm not sure about Unai, I'm really not, but I'm definitely willing to give him next season to find out. And it just depends on, again, where I'll draw the line under how much support he gets. He got some support in the market last window. The last summer window. Was it enough? Probably not, but it was as much as you could expect in one window. Then again, in January, he's given no help whatsoever, where I feel like one defender either on loan or... I don't think the Suarez loan signing was bad, it's just worked out bad. At the time, I was more for it, and I thought that's brilliant for the lack of resources we've got to make that happen. I thought I was really happy with it. It's just a shame that he got injured and, it didn't work out. But I feel like just one defensive signing could have, just tipped us over the edge. Fans-wise, just a bit of joy and, making us more solid at the back, I think might have just been the edge of getting us Champions League without needing the Europa League final win. But it's all hindsight now, guys, and I think you've just got to give him a bit more time. And we've been shit for a long time now, so we've definitely got it in us to stomach another year. If it doesn't turn out well with him, one thing we do know is we're not just going to keep plugging away with him. He will just be gone, because he's only got a short contract with us, so it won't kill us to get rid of him, and he will be replaced. So whichever way you look at it and wherever you sat on this situation, whichever side of the fence you're on at the minute, just give it a bit more time, because what's got to happen in the next window, this window we're in right now, I don't see realistically who you think would want to come into the club that's better than Unai Emery, and that's how I look at it. People mentioning about Allegri, why would he come to this club? We are a big name, we're a big draw when we're in the Champions League and we've got a decent squad. We're in the Europa League again. It looks like we haven't got much money again. The squad is a mess. There's got to be 5 or 6 outs and ins. There has to be, if there's going to be any sort of progress, and then that's included as well as some young blood brought in and some out of contract players leaving. So I just don't see an alternative at the moment, guys. So I think it's better the devil for the time being, and we've just got to crack on with it. But I don't think he's much to blame for things as people are making out. I really don't, and I'm willing to give him some more time. Next one, Kroenke. Thoughts on Kroenke? Guys, you know I'm not a big fan of the dude. I think he's a whippy-tash wanker. Because he's more of a businessman than a fan, and I would like somebody. I don't want somebody who's just a fan, but I would like someone who does actually have an interest in Arsenal, as well as being a mega billionaire, to be involved and do what's necessary. But I don't lay all the blame at his door. It's another tricky one for me. He's not been at a game for over a year, which is piss poor. But then you look at the fact that Josh has taken over for him. He runs his sports franchises, so has Josh been at games? Yes, he has. When Josh started coming to games, did Wenger go pretty quick? Yeah, he did. Since he's been involved, has investment been made? Yes, it has. So I'm not sure on him at the minute. Now he has 100%. We've got to look at this next window and then judge him on that. If we do nothing this window, we spend 10 million quid, and the squad gets weaker again, then yeah, I think you know, we're all well within our rights to absolutely lose the plot. But I think it's premature right now. I think you've got to wait till August to see what's happened. Because if you do look a bit deeper into things, it's not, you know, a big problem for me, you know, is you look at the outs that somebody pointed out to me, you know, Cazorla, Wiltshire, Rambo, Welbs, Sanchez, zero for all those players. You know, when you look in, you should be saying sort of Cazorla 20 to 30, Wiltshire 20 to 30, Rambo 30 to 40, Welbs 10 to 20, Sanchez 40, 50. You know, that's a lot of money that's gone, you know, that's just disappeared. And that's not his fault directly, you know, that's been poor management from behind the scenes. But then on the same hand, they're people that he's employed, you know, and I think he's sort of just washed his hands and just it'll look after itself, and it hasn't, you know, the people that he's trusted haven't, again, people within the club who've been given trust haven't repaid that faith, you know, and then, you know, you look at decent business we have done out, which I raised with somebody the other day, Ox, 30 odd million for Ox, the only good business, you know, and that wasn't us getting an enhanced fee, that was just probably getting a fair amount for that player, you know, and I know his contract situation at the time sort of blurred the lines a little bit, but then you look back past that and it's Overmars, you know, that's our biggest outgoing is Overmars, you know, and that's scary that's, you know, over a decade ago. It's frightening, guys, that, you know, like I say, the trust that's being given to people behind the scenes, that they're the ones that are really letting us down. You know, and it made me look at sort of Cagaggio, you know, we're looking internally for a head of recruitment. Well, this guy's been a big part of the piss poor recruitment that's gone on for years. So I'd be looking externally, not internally. I don't think this guy's up to it, and I just don't think anyone that was part of that setup should be even getting a mention for this job. Yeah, he knows the club, but what does he know about players outside of it? Well, going off him being a part of our recruitment over the last few years, he clearly doesn't know a great fucking deal, does he? So that scares me. It scares me that we might still be going down the same path. You know, and then you look Ozil, you know, if we're going to get rid of him, it'll be for nothing, you know, unless someone gives us a real nominal fee and we pay a lot of his wages, subsidise a lot of his wages to get rid. So you know, it's frightening, you know, but you look at people saying, well, spend some fucking money. Well, we have spent money, you know, we pissed away 80 million on Mustafi, Xhaka and Perez and all of those players. We're not going to get what, you know, we've just seen Perez get moved on again for 2 million. We spent 17 on him, you know, and it's not that long ago when that happened. You know, Mustafi, we're probably not going to get what we paid for him. Xhaka, you know, people tell me he's decent, but I'd be amazed if someone gives us more than what we paid for him, you know, 35 million. I'd be happy to get 20 for Mustafi, you know, and we paid 30, and I'd be happy to get 25 to 30 for Xhaka, knowing we paid 35. And then, you look at the recent windows, 50 plus on Aubameyang, you know, going on for 50 on Lacazette, you know, and then Leno, Torreira, Guendouzi, Socrates, you know, 70 million. Guys, we're not spending money, but it's what's coming in that's the problem, and the wages that are killing us. So as much as I hate Kroenke, I'm not laying all the blame at his door. It's just, for me, when you look at things that go on within a business, it all, you know, shit rolls downhill, and it's all coming from the man upstairs. So he is to blame, but not directly for everything. You know, and we've just got to get through this window, and then it's time to, you know, reevaluate the situation, and then it's, you know, do we all turn psychopaths or not, and completely lose the plot? It's a tricky one. Another little thing that got mentioned in a question: loss of sponsors. Is it a worry? Not for me, because these are minimal sponsors. They're not, you know, it's not your shirt sponsor, it's not your ground sponsor. These are, you know, the little just 1 or 2 mils here or there, 3 or 4 mils here or there that make a bit of difference, but not a massive difference. And, you know, we've gone from 29 sponsors to 20. It's to be expected, guys. We're not in the big draw competition, are we? You know, we're in the budget cup. You know, and for a lot of big sponsors, that's not as big a draw. You know, so it's to be expected that we're going to lose some sponsors. And let's say it's not like we're losing Adidas or losing Emirates, so let's you know, be a bit more grounded about it and react accordingly. And what I did notice about a lot of the sponsors that have left are all gambling based in the main. You know, 6 or 7 of them are gambling based, so maybe that's just something where, you know, the Keogh one, you know, they were obviously involved in some pretty dodgy fraud. So that was one that went that, you know, I can fully understand. And like I say, the others seem to be mainly gambling based. So I don't know if that's just the club taking a bit of a stance on distancing themselves from wanting to be, you know, mentioned in the same breath as gambling firms, because a lot of us know that for me, you know, you guys know I love a gamble, but do I need 8,000 betting ads in amongst you know, the half time and the adverts of football? No, I don't. I don't want it. Do I want to get pestered 20 times a day in emails and notifications about, you know, 5 to 1 on this, 10 to 1? No, I don't. Do I want to see it on all the hoardings going round? No, I don't. So it's a strange one, that, guys. Next one. Do we believe we've got a transfer budget of 40 million? Well, I for one don't, guys. And I've been saying this for a long time. When my good mate, the Ornicle, on full of shit, came out. You know, and then go back now and look at his comments and see how on the money he is. He's full of shit, guys. And I've loved the fact that I think a lot of you have realised this now, that he's got no clout at the club anymore. I don't think any journos do. I don't think there's anybody that's got, you know, the hand in that pie. I really don't. I think he was the man that we were giving him information and then him directly leaking it, rather than it being a free-for-all and loads of bullshit. But now he's out. For me, he's been pushed out of the circle of love for me. And he's just the same as John Cross for me now. He holds no sway. Guys, I'll show my arse, and I'll get a Spurs tattoo on my arse if we spend less than 40 million. There you go. We'll spend more than that. No two ways in my mind. Although I do think the goalpost will have got moved a little bit. We'll spend over 40 million, and that's not including, you know, if players go out. You know, we'll spend more than that. I'm not worried about that, to be honest. And like I say, I just think that the goalpost will have been moved. I think we had a list, you know, your Umtitis, you know, Ziyech, Rabiot, you know, those type of players, maybe a Nicholas Pep, you know, a dream scenario that some of you were looking at. Those sort of players are gone now, guys. You've got to, like I say, it's time to put the sensible hat on, because those type of signings ain't going to... And if they do, I'll be absolutely mind blown, because I think a lot of those were very dependent on us being a Champions League side, which we're not. So we're going to now be on plan B, which I think will be more run-of-the-mill senior pros and young, you know, unearthed gems, unpolished gems that, you know, we can get in for a low fee, and, you know, we just test the water with them, and if they're not up to it, we might get more back. If not, no big loss. You know, we don't buy somebody for 7, you lose them for free. It's no big deal, is it? Whereas, you know, you buy a Xhaka for 35 and it's probably worth 5. You know, it's a big hit, innit? So that's, you know, it's going to be goalpost shifted now and on to plan B. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to come in. You know, and like I say, guys, it's time to be realistic. You're going to have to stop going on about Zahas and Peps, you know, and these type of players, and get with the real world, and, you know, take your heart out of the situation and let your head rule, and be way more realistic about what might come in. And it's not to say that what will come in won't be good or as good. It's just that you won't be as aware of it as you are of these other players. You know, you'll probably look at some of the signings we'll make and go, oh. But, you know, if Torreira didn't have such a brilliant World Cup, would a lot of you have gone, meh, when we signed him? And then how happy were you after watching him play 3 or 4 times? You were fucking delighted and going, yes, we've finally got that player in the middle of the park. So, you know, you've got to start putting the old realistic, you know, and sensible hat on. Somebody, and then, you know, just leading off that, said, what being realistic is the minimum we'd need in. Minimum for me. Goalkeeper, I don't believe we need one. Left back, I believe we need one, but it wouldn't shock me if we just plodded along again for another year with Monreal and Kolasinac. I really wouldn't. Centre back, one will come in, but it wouldn't shock me if not a lot changed there, and just one came in and nobody went out. That wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't. Right back wouldn't shock me if nothing happened. Centre mid, I believe a centre mid will come in, whether it's an attacking one, a box-to-box, a central defensive mid, I don't know, but a centre mid will come in for me. And then a winger/striker, someone that's a bit versatile up top. So I think realistic, the bare minimum that will come in is a centre back, a centre mid, and a winger/striker. Do I think that's enough? No, but I think that's the bare minimum that will come in, being realistic. You know, if you ask me what's the bare minimum that needs to come in, I'd say a backup right back, a first team left back, one, possibly 2 centre backs, a sort of older head and a younger up and comer, a box to box midfielder, and then, you know, possibly 2 winger/strikers. That's for me what the minimum would have to happen, but whether that happens is a totally different thing. Outgoings, guys, that's another one that I got asked about. Outgoings, well, we got the news yesterday, Litchy's gone, which is, you know, no big surprise. I saw he's another one, people tweeting him saying, thank fuck for that, thank fuck you're gone, you useless twat, you know, see you later, granddad, you useless prick. And it's like, why, guy, why? It's not his fault we signed him, you know. I'm not going to lie, you know, and be a bullshitter. I thought it was a good signing when we got him because I thought he'll just fill the gap when needed, when Hector needs a rest and, you know, going off his credentials, he'll do a job. It's just turned out he hasn't. Is that a reason to abuse him? No, just, you know, he cost us nothing. It's not worked out. He's gone. End off, guy. I don't, you know. But then that does open up this right-back question, which I'll get onto in a minute. But, you know, Chexwell, Rambo, now, you know, the other 3 that have gone. So, you know, you're looking at £500,000 in wages there already. And then the other one that somebody brought up to me was Ober and Lacquer. You know, this is getting interesting now, because I mentioned it to somebody about we're there for the picking now. That was my biggest concern after the Europa League, was obviously I first away thought of that's a pisser, we've not won a European trophy. Then it was second emotion, which is shit, now we haven't got Champions League next year, which then the knock-on effect of that was now we're not going to get those players which I hoped for, which I was, you know, call me an idiot, but I was thinking we might go and get Umtiti, Saliba, or a Hermoso, or, you know, somebody like that, Rabiot, Ziyech, Pepe. I honestly think that might have happened, guys. Maybe not so much Pep, but some of these others, I do believe we were going to try and make some big swings in the market. And now that's all not happened. Then my next thought was, right, Europa League again for a year. Is there anyone in the squad that's a massive turn-off for? And I thought, yeah, most of them. And then my thought straight after that was, how many clubs now will look at the few good things we do have, which is 2 brilliant, you know, top jolly strikers, and think, can we prize these guys away? You know, and if we can turn their heads at the thought of Champions League football, then what sort of bargaining power does that leave Arsenal with? You know, if, you know, say for Aubameyang, for instance, if he goes, right, I want to leave, I'm not saying that's the case, but if he does do that, where does that leave us? We couldn't hold out for mega money, because then we'd be pissing him off, whether his heart is in it or not, and then his contract situation runs down to a point where then we're stuck again, where, you know, we've got to get rid of him or end up with a player that would leave for nothing. It's an awkward one, guys. You know, a rumour about China this morning. I don't see that being a draw. They don't, unless they offered him sort of 600 grand. I think he's more interested in the football than the money side. You know, it's not like it's minimum wage or bust for him, is it? He's making good money at our place. You know, and I'm sure he could get improved terms on that if he wanted. But, you know, it does bring round that situation of, you know, if a big offer does come in, you know, if they offered us sort of 80 million north for Aubameyang, do you say goodbye? And it's a real tough yank on the heartstring situation, really, because do I want to get rid of him? No, do I fuck? You know, and I think that'd be a bit of a step backwards. Well, I think it'd be a big step backwards to sell either him or Lacazette. But are we at a position where we have got to take a couple of steps back to take a lot more going forward? Quite possibly. You know, and if we could get 80 million north for a guy that, although he's our top scorer this year, would it be a lot more beneficial to us as a club moving forward? Because he's not going to keep doing that for the next 5 years. And what I think we've got to look at as a club is the next 5 years. So would we take a hit in the short term next year? Massively, definitely. No 2 ways around that. Could we survive it and come out a better club if we invest it correctly? Yeah. So it's one for me, you know, and his value is going to start depreciating. I think this probably is the last chance to get mega money for him. And then the year after, I think we'd be looking at less than what we paid for him. So it's a real... God, it's just a situation I just didn't want to be thinking about, to be honest. It's awful. You know, and people will say, I'm sure naturally, you know, the talk of him or Lacquer getting sold, they'll go, well, what's the guarantee that the money will get put back into the club? Well, we've been told, haven't we, that we are guaranteed that all revenue we make will go directly back into the club. So that's not something I really worried about. I thought, there's no way on earth that this club could withhold, for me, getting rid of Ober or Lacquer and then no investment, because I really do think that would be pitchforks and burning torches outside the club and playing to dead crowds again next year and massive protests. And I don't think that the club are that negligent towards our feelings. I don't think they give a massive shit about the fans, but not that little a shit. And knowing the ramifications of, there's a lot of people that are sort of a boiled kettle and it's sort of steaming up, that the lid will blow off if that sort of thing happens. So I don't believe that, guys. I think that if we were to get rid of it, we'll get reinvested. Then talking about Laka, and his trip to Barcelona, and people, well, he's off to Barca. Maybe he did have a chat with him while he was over there, or, people say, well, actually, tapping up and all the rest. Come on, guys, don't be naive. That stuff happens, What's to, me and my mate were talking about it the other night, what's to stop somebody to, text a player, call a player and, say, theoretically, if Barcelona were to come calling, mate, would you be interested? Now, there's no implications to that because it's not fact, it's not, so there's nothing to stop that sort of thing happening. You can't prove that that's tapping up. Unless the conversation's recorded, they could say, well, we were just asking him what his opinion is on the Brexit situation. You can't, it's a tricky one, guys. I don't read a lot into, I don't read a massive amount into that trip to Barcelona. I think he was probably there just to enjoy himself. I know a lot of people like me go to Barcelona for a long weekend, because it's a lovely city and it's not particularly expensive to go there. I'm sure he didn't look at it for those same reasons, but it's a beautiful city to visit, I don't read much into it, guys. I really don't. But that did make me think then, the Barcelona situation, and it brought up something that somebody said, this net spend and ours isn't much different to Liverpool's. But what you've got to look at is Liverpool got rid of £210 million worth of players to Barcelona, which does muddy the waters massively, and that's not even including getting rid of Sterling. So yes, you can say their net spend is very similar to ours, but when you look at it, the actual nuts and bolts, not is it, guys? Come on, they've spent a lot more. They went out and spent 150 on a goalkeeper and a centre-back, which has undoubtedly been the tipping point for them, making them a far better side this year. And that's where, you look, they got rid of Coutinho, Suarez and Sterling for 250 million. We got rid of Cazorla, Wiltshire, Rambo, Welbs and Sanchez for fuck all. There's your difference. It's not on, money spent. We've not brought in money to then have money to go out, and especially when they're talking about the club's going to be run, self-sufficient. No money coming on means no money going out. It's not rocket science, is it? The next one then, Koscielny. I thought this would be the situation with him. I didn't think he'd be happy if we just said no extension or 1 year extension, which I think is definitely I don't see that we'll offer him more than a year. So I think he's probably gone. With my injuries this point in my career, it's probably time for me to move on. He owes us nothing. There should be nobody saying about him, well, fuck off out the club, then you turn coat. No. He's been a brilliant servant down the years, and I personally think the nearest thing in the Emirates era to a legend, for me, he's done more than Ramsey has, because he carried the team for years. He carried our defence for years. When Torre went, he was massive for us, absolutely massive. And then when, Mertesacker started to not look great, he was wiping his arse for a couple of years. Although I'm not saying Ramsey wasn't influential, I don't think he's as influential as Koscielny in carrying us as a club and just keeping us at a level. I think if we'd have lost Ramsey in that time, we'd have coped. I think if we'd have lost Koscielny in that time, we'd have fucking bombed big time. And the problems we've got now would have surfaced 10 years ago. 5-6 years ago. Talks of Bordeaux being interested. The Lorient links. I wouldn't mind him getting a 1 year extension, but it'd just be to drop him in, if we were going to play a younger player, a Bielik, a Mavropanos, somebody younger at centre-back in the Europa Carabao Cup, he'd be the person I'd put in next to him as an old head to help. So it's not a massive loss, and I think that then I think if he goes as well as Mustafi, we'll bring in two centre-backs. Like I've said, I think there'll be a young up-and-comer and then somebody 25, 26, 27 that could then just steady the ship, for 5 years, 3 to 5 years. So it's not one I'll lose sleep over, but I will thank him when he goes, definitely. And then we get to the incomings. I think the one guarantee, guys, so far, is that Martinelli will be an Arsenal player as soon as he turns 18. I think we can safely say he will be the first signing no doubt in my mind, for the money. It's just all based on this. He's got to turn 18 to get his Italian passport. That's why it's not happened already. And I think he's an exciting signing. You know, players have, that have won that award that in Brazil, like he's won. You know, really turned out to be top class players. The money we're paying for him, sort of 7 million's nothing, is it? So if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. He can play striker, winger, position that we definitely need. He's age 18. I'm not sure he'd be getting. I don't think he'd be getting lumped straight in the first team, but I don't think if he. I'm just not sure if he'd get loaned out and being allowed to acclimatise to the Premier League setup, and getting loaned out to a lower league team or kept in and around. And I'm just not sure on that part of it, but I'm pretty sure he'll be an Arsenal player pretty soon. Unai or whatever, I'm not quite sure how you say his name. 30 million euros for him, and this bollocks about him being our number one priority. Guys, for fuck's sake, why do you believe this stuff? Why do you honestly believe it? The amount of you that have heads have just completely imploded and fell off, and for fuck's sake, the club, this is what Emery wants. And like I pulled somebody on it yesterday, has Unai Emery directly rang you and gone, yeah, Manu, yeah, he's our number one priority, this is what we want? No, so why do you believe it? I'd believe it if Emery's come out and said, this guy's my number one priority, believe it. Has he? No. It's people who write newspapers in the time of year where there's fuck all to talk about, making up shit. Nickel Sherrer or whatever he's called, I'm not happy with this guy. He spouts more bullshit than anyone for me. He's up there. He's just a clickbait merchant, and I don't know why you all buy into it. Do I think we could be interested in a right back? Yeah. But do I think it'd be a first teamer? No. Right back's a tricky one for me. Obviously, we know Hector is solid first team choice. No two ways about that. But he's not going to be fit for start of the season. But then, how long will he be out for? We're not going to go and get a first teamer that knows that when he comes back, he'll be taking their place. So that's why I just give this no credit at all. And this guy's got more ambition than to come to us to be a second choice right back. Don't believe it. I just give this a fat zero on the size scale of rumours. I really do. Don't believe he's number one priority. Don't believe right back's number one priority. The one thing I will say, guys, is when you lose your shit about priority signings, you might want a centre back in first, but it doesn't work like that in the transfer world, guys. We'll have numerous signings we want to make. So don't lose your shit if one happens before another. It might take us a month, 6 weeks to get the centre-back in we want. It might take 2 days to get in the right-back we want, the left-back we want, the midfielder we want. It's got goalposts are going to change like that. Someone might say no that just suddenly says yes. Or identify a different target that's just up for it straight away and there's not much deliberation. So just chill out a little bit. Just chill out. If we bring in a right back, is it upsetting? No, because we need a backup right back. I've been saying that for ages because Ainsley ain't one. But just because if one comes in first doesn't mean we're not going to then go and get a centre back. Just stop losing your shit over every little thing because it's so infuriating, and it must be so stressful for you. And you're doing it based on zero facts. It's madness. I love silly season. I enjoy it, and it made me look at the right back situation and think, Chambers coming back. It's another reason to want Chambers back. He is somebody that could play right back for a couple of months and then be happily just do it in the meantime, and then be happy to then go like Ainsley back into midfield. So it wouldn't shock me if we just went with what we've got, and it wouldn't shock me if one came in. But if one does come in, I think it'll be a backup, and it'll be somebody younger and inexperienced rather than somebody getting on a little bit. That wouldn't be happy playing second fiddle to Hector when he comes back. So no, he's not number one priority for me. Talks of the Lagan striker Niziri, if I've said that correct, 25 million euros. I've got a little bit of knowledge of this guy because I've watched them a few times this year. He's very Giroud-like for me. And I'm not going to poo-poo it totally. I think around 25 million euros. If we were to get rid of Aubameyang or Lacazette, we would bring in another striker, someone that would be but I think it'd be somebody who'd be firmly second choice, and then I think it would totally switch the way we'll play. Whereas I'd like to possibly see us 4-4-2 next year. I think if we went for getting rid of one of those guys, I don't think we'd get another first team striker. We'd get someone that could fill in when one of those guys isn't available or needs a break. And then we go back to one up top with two wingers, and then that changes what we do in this window. it's a real tricky one. So I don't give that a 0, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of legs in it. But I do think it'll be somebody like that, a bit random. You know, not a big name that, you know, everybody will know, not a household name. The other big rumour that's gone around, Anderson and Prayet from Sampdoria. You know, you're looking at you know, this bid of, you know, 50 million euros. Well, that sounds pretty derogatory to me, knowing what I know of these two players. I'd say they were both worth, you know, I'd say we'd be looking more at sort of 60 million euros, maybe a little bit more. I'd say they're both 20 million pound players, possibly a little bit more. And I think there's a lot of sense in it, to be honest. It is one that I give some credit to. Anderson, you know, he's only young. I think he's only 21, 22. I've seen him play quite a bit this year. I think he's one that's got a massive future. Very Skriniar-like for me, and I could see him following that same sort of trajectory. So he'd one I'd be very happy with coming in, but like I say, for me that'd be in place of Mustafi, and then an older head would have to still come in place of Koscielny if he's to go. But I'd be delighted with that sort of signing. I'd be really up for bringing him in. Pryor, I'm not so sure about. I think he's decent, but is he a real upgrade on what we have? Probably not. He's probably a downgrade on Mesut and Rambo. Only slightly though. Only slightly. I don't think he's a huge downgrade. But again, you know, he's coming into his, you know, he's only 25 or whatever, so there's plenty of legs left in him. And you know, I would be much more up for seeing that base of the team being Torreira and him, who already have a really good relationship from the time at Sampdoria, than watching Torreira and Xhaka anymore. And I think if he comes in, I think that probably would then allow us to get rid of Xhaka and look for then another midfielder. You know, and if Prayet was the only midfielder to come in, and then we've got, you know, if we had Xhaka and El Neni going out, and then we had a midfield of Ainsley, Willock, Torreira, Prayet, Guendouzi, Chambers, would I be upset? No, I wouldn't mind seeing that going forward. Is it instantly screaming Champions League qualifying midfield? No. But is it screaming this could be really good in 2 to 3 years? Yeah. So I'm not going to lose my shit over signings this year. I'm really not, because I just want to see what needs to happen. I'm not going to start bagging on who comes in. I'm really not. I'm willing to give everybody a chance. You know, and this bid doesn't sound a million miles out for me, and I wouldn't be shocked if we did press the button and these two came in. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Another one, Neto, being mentioned again. I just don't see, for the fee we'd pay and the wages we'd pay, I don't see why we would bring this guy in. I wouldn't be shocked if we did bring in a goalkeeper. You know, a lot of you guys know I'm a massive fan of Martinez, and I think he more than thoroughly deserves, you know, the time he's been here, you know, and been made to sit on the sidelines. I believe he deserves a chance to prove himself as number 2 and possibly, you know, put Leno under sufficient pressure, which I believe he would, you know, and costing us nothing and on the meagre wages he's on. It's a no-brainer position for me to fiddle with, you know, and then let sort of Iliev be number 3. I'm just not sure on the goalkeeper one, but I wouldn't be shocked if an older goalkeeper came in, you know, on a free. Wouldn't be, you know, like a Lichtsteiner type signing. I wouldn't be surprised. But for me, it's nothing like a priority. Kabak was another one. Kabak, centre back from Stuttgart, 13 mil release clause, 19-year-old. It's tricky to know which one of these we're going for, but it's lovely that, you know, sort of Saliba, Hermoso, you know, Anderson now, Kabak. These are type of centre backs that are getting pushed around. It's exciting for me, guys. I think it's what we need is a young, exciting centre back to come in, someone that we can sort of pin some hopes on. And then I look at, you know, sort of him, and then you may, you know, somebody like that, a young centre back. Then you've got Holding, who's now, we've got the news, he'll be back for pre-season, which is great news. You know, it would probably allow someone like Mavropanos to go out on loan, and then you sort of just in the squad replace Mavropanos with Bielik, because I think Bielik's way more first team ready, a lot less to prove, and for me looks a lot more of a centre back with his qualities he has. I think he'd be really good with his size. And he's poised on the ball. I think he'd be brilliant for us at centre-back, just being able to just be comfortable on the ball, step out and then play a nice pass, because we know he's got that range of passing. And Anderson was very similar to that for me. If you look at how he plays for Sampdoria, he's the one who takes that position that comes right to the touchline, you know, just next to the box, offers the outlet for the goalkeeper, and then he plays out the balls. He's very, very good at that, so it wouldn't shock me that we're looking at him. You know, like I say, we're looking at that sort of centre-back, which I find quite exciting. But I do believe that an older Ed would come in as well, especially if Mustafi went. You know, if you looked at sort of, you know, an Umtiti, a Kanate, Hermosa, you know, someone like that, and then Socrates, Holding, Bielik, you know, and then another one of these young guys, would that be solid looking? Fairly solid, but with optimism to get more solid. If you were looking at sort of Socrates, Mustafi still, and then Holding, Mavro, and one young guy, that doesn't really fill with me much confidence for steadying the ship and, you know, shoring up the back again next year. So it's a really tricky one, but it's nice. I'm enjoying the sort of names we're getting mentioned with. I'm a bit disappointed nothing's quite happened yet, because I thought we'd press the button on some stuff pretty quick. But I think obviously not getting Champions League changed the goalpost a little bit, and now with some of the legwork we've done, I think we're going to rehash and have to do before we then start pressing the button on some players. So I'm not sure anything's going to happen pretty quickly again, but I do think once things do start happening, it'll be like dominoes and it'll just be brrr, and they'll all go over. And I think, you know, there'll be some stuff that'll happen before we go on pre-season tour. I would like to see a really solid centre-back, a really solid centre-mid, and some sort of winger come in before we go on pre-season. You know, and then a backup right-back, you know, first choice left-back. I think they're much more reliant on outgoings, but what has to happen before anyone goes out is a centre-back, a centre-mid and a striker/wing. I think that has to happen. You know, and then like I say, you've got to toy around with the idea of, you know, people keep getting pissed off at me mentioning about Xhaka and going on about him, but, you know, it's amazing how many people will turned on Aubameyang for missing that penalty in the North London derby, but then a lot of Xhaka fanboys refused to turn on him after that fuck up against Brighton, which to me was way more. Aubameyang did way more for us this year to not get the swoop of the axe from me, an abuse from me, than Granit Xhaka has done this season. He's improved and he's been better, but he's still fucking miles off the pace. You know, he doesn't have any real influence in the side for me. And people say, well, when he doesn't play, we lack something. That's correct, guys, but that's because of look at who we then have to replace him. But what you should be looking at as, well, can we do better than Granit Xhaka? Yes, we can. So I'd be more than happy, like I say, if this Pryor Anderson double deal came in, I would be really happy then to see Xhaka go out, get some, you know, he's one player that we might get more than 20 million for. You know, I look at our team and there's not many that you'd want to sell that you could get that for. There's probably him and Mustafi, so for me they're just two obvious fall guys. Get rid of them two, get rid of El Nene, you know, cause Nacho, let's get, you know, 60 million to put towards bringing in a backup left back and a backup, you know, a replacement for Xhaka, some sort of box to box, because that's what I think we're so undynamic in the middle of the pitch, and that's what frightens me going forward next year. If we've got a midfield again of Xhaka, Torreira and Ozil, I don't see any improvement. I don't think it matters if we brought in Upamecano and Kanate, or De Ligt and Upamecano, or De Ligt and Kanate, you know, and brought in Tierney and Aarons, and we brought in Pep and Zaha. I still think we'd get fucking trounced, because our team's too easy to just walk through. So that's it from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed me sort of doing this different format of answering questions rather than just rattling out my own thoughts. Although it is me prattling on about my own thoughts. It's more sort of guided by you guys rather than me, you know, being master and commander and, you know, judge and jury and all the rest of it. But please, 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 guys, if you've enjoyed these, you know, I've been doing them now for sort of 7-8 months. If you've been enjoying them, please show me some support. You know, just a little click on the likes, a little click on the subscriptions, a little retweet, or, you know, quote my tweets with an to somebody who, you know, is an account who'd like to get involved, that maybe I can base, you know, next year more of a show around having, you know, I love Arseblog, you know, Gunner Blog, I love what those guys do. Obviously they're the dog's bollocks at this sort of thing. So I would like somebody to sort of bounce off, somebody that's a completely different character to me. You know, that we've got a sort of chalk and cheese thing going on. You know, my sort of jovial look at things and a bit of shit northern humour, you know, and not taking things so seriously, and the occasional rant of someone who's sort of more straight-laced and, you know, more information-based. That's where the way I'd like things to go. So if you'd like to see that, guys, or me become a part of somebody else's project, maybe, you know, maybe you've watched somebody else's, you know, blogs, vlogs, whatever you want to call them, podcast, anything, and you think, do you know what these guys are missing? just a really badly receding mid-30s mank guy with a bit of shit banter. You know, so let those guys know about me, because I wouldn't be against that either. So thank you guys for listening. I know it's been a long one, but there's plenty to talk about, and hope it's, you know, quelled some of your thoughts and fears regarding moving forward. And maybe I'll be back next week. Take it easy, guys. Si signing out, and have a lovely rest of your week. Take it easy.